The desert planet of Xylar 7 stretched endlessly under a burning twin sun, its sands shimmering like molten gold. The air shimmered with heat, carrying the distant hum of hovercrafts and the chatter of countless alien voices. Xylar 7 Trading Hub was a place of chaos and opportunity, a city built from metal and glass that gleamed in the sunlight, where traders from dozens of star systems gathered to buy, sell, and bargain. Jace Wren had been on a dozen worlds, but none felt quite like this. The air smelled of spices, ionized metal, and strange flora that had been imported from faraway moons. Jace moved confidently through the crowded streets, adjusting the strap of his satchel that held the crystals he was hoping to trade. His eyes scanned the crowd, taking in the alien merchants with their multicolored skin, intricate tattoos, and mechanical limbs. He had always loved places like this, where he could see the universe's diversity up close, and where a human's reputation could be built with nothing but wit and courage. His target today was a trader known as Velker, a gray-skinned alien with 4 arms and a penchant for rare energy crystals. Velker's shop was a tent-like structure made of metallic fabrics that shimmered under the sun, giving the illusion that it was alive. As Jace approached, he could hear the low hum of machinery and the faint clinking of crystal vials. Velker looked up, his eyes narrowing in curiosity. "Ah, Jace Wren," he said, his voice like grinding stone. "I did not expect you here so soon." "Are you sure you have enough to interest me?" Jace smiled, holding up the vial of energy crystals. "I think you'll find these quite rare, Velker, straight from the Kinter mines, untouched, pure, and highly conductive." The trader leaned forward, inspecting the crystals with one of his delicate clawed hands. Intriguing, but quality is one thing, reliability is another. Why should I trust you?" Jace shrugged lightly. "Because I know the value of a good deal. I don't just bring crystals, I bring honesty. That counts in any market." Velker chuckled, a sound like gravel rolling over itself. "Confidence, yes. Humans always have that, don't they?" As they negotiated, Jace felt an unusual gaze on him. He glanced over his shoulder, and that's when he noticed her. She was unlike any being he had seen before. Towering over most of the traders, her body was covered in thick, dark fur, but her face was distinctly humanoid, framed by sharp, intelligent eyes that glowed amber in the sunlight. Muscles rippled beneath her fur as she moved with a grace that made it clear she was powerful. She didn't speak, she simply watched, her eyes fixed on Jace with an intensity that made him tense. Jace tried to ignore her, focusing on Velker, but the presence was impossible to dismiss. People around them seemed uneasy too, giving her a wide berth. Some whispered hurriedly, glancing between her and Jace. Rumors of beastwomen like her were common in the trading hub. They were known as solitary hunters, wise and unpredictable, often testing the courage of strangers in ways that made many nervous. Velker noticed Jace's distraction and followed his gaze. His multiple arms gestured briefly in warning. "That one," he said quietly, "is Kayla. She does not waste her attention. Be careful." Jace nodded subtly, though curiosity pricked at him. Why was she so interested in him? Humans were rare in this hub, but hardly noteworthy, and yet there was something in her eyes that seemed to challenge him, as if she were judging whether he was worthy of notice. "Do not be distracted, human," Velker murmured. "Negotiations here are delicate. A single misstep and a deal is lost." Jace smiled faintly. "Don't worry, I'm used to attention." The Beastwoman took a step closer, her movements silent and deliberate. Jace felt a ripple of instinctive caution, but he did not move back. The crowd seemed to part naturally around her, giving her space like water around a stone. When she stopped in front of him, she tilted her head, studying him. For a moment, the desert wind carried her scent, earthy, wild, and strangely comforting. Then, without warning, she lunged. Jace barely had time to register the motion before her teeth grazed his arm. It was a quick, sharp bite, not meant to harm, but to test. Pain flared briefly, but it was more a surprise than anything else. Gasps spread through the crowd, and many humans instinctively recoiled. Jace froze for a second, staring into her amber eyes, but the surprise quickly shifted into understanding. This wasn't an attack in anger, it was a challenge. Kayla's gaze held him steady, almost daring him to respond. Slowly he extended his hand, letting her sniff it, letting the tension pass between them. Velker raised his eyebrows in astonishment. "Interesting," he muttered under his breath. "The bite, it's not a threat. It is recognition. Few humans get that." The Beastwoman's ears twitched, and she circled him once before stepping back, her stance relaxed but alert. Jace flexed his arm, checking the minor bite mark, but he didn't feel fear, only a strange respect for the creature. She had not tried to harm him. She had tested him. And in that moment, he realized something about the universe he hadn't felt before. Humans were underestimated, yes, but their courage, adaptability, and composure could earn respect in even the most alien of societies. "Are you okay?" a voice asked. Jace turned to see a young human trader, wide-eyed and pale. "I'm fine," Jace said with a grin, flexing his arm. "She's interesting, that's all." Kayla watched silently, then slowly retreated into the crowd, her movement fluid, almost cat-like. The bustling hub resumed its rhythm, but the whispers about Jace's encounter followed him. Other traders, aliens, and even humans glanced at him with newfound curiosity, some with admiration, some with wariness. Velker leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Remember this, human. The universe is full of beings who value strength, but not all measure it with weapons. Some, like Kayla, measure it in courage, wit, and composure. You passed her first test." Jace nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and anticipation. This encounter had changed something inside him. The universe was not just a place to survive. It was a place to prove what humans were capable of, to show that courage, intelligence, and resilience could stand even among beings far stronger or faster. As he finalized his deal with Velker, Jace couldn't help glancing around, half expecting Kayla to appear again. The bite, the gaze, the silent challenge, it had awakened something in him. Humans were rare in this hub, but Jace intended to make sure they were noticed. Not through violence, but through ingenuity, bravery, and presence. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the hub. Jace walked away from Velker's stall, the crystal vial secure in his bag. Behind him, Kayla had vanished into the crowd, but the memory of her eyes and that sharp, testing bite lingered. It was a start, the first spark of a story that would soon become far larger than a simple trade. For Jace Wren, the human in a world of aliens, this was the moment he realized that respect could be earned in ways no one expected. And in a galaxy full of mysteries and dangers, that realization was more valuable than any crystal, more powerful than any weapon, and more important than any deal. Jace Wren felt the weight of the desert sun on his back as he walked through the crowded streets of Xylar 7. Trading hub. The bustling market was even more alive now than it had been the previous day, buzzing with merchants, traders, and alien species of every imaginable shape and color. The air carried the smells of exotic spices, metallic wares, and the faint tang of ionized machinery. But despite the chaos, Jace's mind kept drifting back to the Beastwoman, Kayla. Her amber eyes, the way she had bitten him, testing but not harming, haunted his thoughts. For hours, he tried to focus on mundane matters, replenishing supplies, checking the energy crystals he had secured, and talking to a few other traders about minor deals. Yet the memory of Kayla's gaze made him both anxious and curious. Why had she singled him out? What was it about him that drew her attention? As the sun began to lower, casting long shadows across the hub, Jace noticed movement at the edge of the crowd. A figure emerged from the throng, moving with a silent grace that made heads turn. It was Kayla. She did not approach immediately. Instead, she circled, observing as though measuring the space and the people within it. Jace's heart quickened. He stepped forward cautiously. "I didn't expect to see you again," he said, trying to sound calm. Kayla stopped and tilted her head, her eyes studying him closely. She made no sound, but her posture communicated a strange mixture of curiosity and challenge. The crowd seemed to sense her presence, giving them both space. Merchants whispered to one another, speculating on the interaction, but Jace ignored them. Velker, the trader from the previous day, approached from behind, his multiple arms gesturing subtly. "She has something for you," he said quietly. "Not a threat, but a test." Humans rarely get this chance. Pay attention. Jace swallowed, nodding. He knew instinctively that this encounter was important. It was more than curiosity. It was an invitation, a challenge. Kayla motioned with her head toward a quieter part of the hub, near the docks where hovercrafts waited to transport goods and travelers to other sectors of the planet. Without speaking, she led the way. Jace followed, feeling a mix of excitement and tension. The area was quieter here, the crowd thinner. Crates of goods were stacked haphazardly, and the smell of fuel and machinery mixed with the desert air. Kayla stopped and looked at him directly. She lowered her head slightly, showing him her teeth not threateningly but as a signal. Jace understood. She wanted him to prove himself not through combat but through courage and intelligence. He nodded slowly. "I accept," he said. The first task came immediately. A small group of alien traders had become trapped between two moving cargo drones, which were about to release their loads. The traders were panicked, unable to move. Without thinking, Jace sprinted forward. He used a combination of his human agility and quick thinking, signaling the drones to stop using their control panels while guiding the trapped traders to safety. The crowd that had gathered clapped and cheered, but Jace hardly noticed them. Kayla watched silently, her eyes focused on every movement he made, assessing him. "That was clever," Velker murmured as Jace returned. "Most would panic. Humans think fast under pressure. That is rare in this hub." Kayla stepped closer, sniffing the air around Jace, as though verifying his courage. Then, without warning, she nudged him forward toward a series of crates stacked near the edge of the dock. Jace approached cautiously and saw what awaited him. A small hovercraft, its navigation system jammed, hovering dangerously close to the edge. A misstep could send it plummeting, destroying valuable goods and potentially injuring someone. Jace took a deep breath. He had no technical knowledge of this specific model, but he relied on his instincts and logic. Quickly, he examined the controls, noting the sequence of buttons and levers. With careful precision, he guided the craft back to safety, securing the cargo without a scratch. Kayla's eyes gleamed, a subtle sign of approval. "Not bad for a human," Velker whispered, impressed. "She senses strength, yes, but also intelligence. You show both." The next challenge was more subtle. Kayla led him toward the outskirts of the hub, where a group of young alien scavengers had gotten stuck in a bioluminescent swamp, a shallow but treacherous area known for sudden quicksand patches. The children were frightened, unable to escape on their own. Jace approached carefully. He examined the swamp's surface, noticing subtle patterns and the areas that seemed firmer. Using a combination of long poles and careful stepping, he created a path for the children to reach solid ground safely. Kayla observed from the edge, her stance relaxed but alert, ready to intervene if needed. When the last child stepped onto safety, Jace felt a rush of satisfaction. This wasn't about bravado or force. It was about thinking, adapting, and caring for others. Humans often relied on intellect and creativity to solve problems where raw strength alone would not work, and Kayla was seeing that firsthand. The final trial of the day was the most unexpected. Kayla led him into a part of the hub filled with ancient relics and automated guardians designed to protect them. Most traders avoided this area, fearful of the sentient machines and the traps that had been in place for centuries. Jace stepped cautiously, his eyes scanning the room. The guardians were motion-activated, moving silently but with lethal precision. He noticed patterns in their movement, subtle delays that gave him windows of opportunity. Using quick thinking, he timed his steps perfectly, dodging past sensors and guardians to reach a relic that the guardians were protecting. He touched it lightly, understanding that the test was not to steal or destroy, but to navigate the challenge without triggering conflict. Kayla watched every move, her eyes narrowing with interest. Finally, she stepped forward, letting out a low, approving hum. Jace exhaled, realizing he had passed all her tests for the day. Velker appeared behind him again, smiling faintly. "You have done well, human." Kayla does not give approval lightly. She sees your courage, your mind, and your adaptability. That is why she marked you. Jace looked at the Beastwoman. "Marked me?" he asked. She did not answer with words. Instead, she approached and lightly pressed her hand to his shoulder, a gesture that humans might interpret as respect, trust, or recognition. It was the kind of approval that could only be earned through deeds, not words. For the first time, Jace felt that he was being seen, not as a fragile human in a universe of stronger species, but as a capable, clever, and brave individual. The bite from the previous day, the tests, the silent observation, it all formed a story of mutual understanding. Humans might be underestimated, but moments like this reminded everyone that courage, intelligence, and adaptability could shine brightly even in worlds filled with overwhelming diversity. As the twin suns began to set, casting a fiery glow over the market and painting the sand in shades of orange and crimson, Jace realized that this was only the beginning. Kayla had seen potential in him, and he had responded with actions, not words. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and often dangerous, but he had proven that humans could rise to the occasion, even in places where few expected it. Walking back toward the hub, Jace felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had navigated challenges, protected others, and earned the respect of a being far stronger and more instinctive than himself. That respect was not given lightly, and it was not permanent, but it was a start that promised further adventures, tests, and the chance to demonstrate humanity's unique strengths. Kayla remained a silent presence nearby, her gaze never leaving him. The crowd parted instinctively around her, giving the pair a strange, almost ceremonial space. Jace knew that tomorrow would bring more challenges, more tests, and more opportunities to prove himself, and he welcomed it. For the first time, he truly understood something profound. Humans were capable of greatness in ways the universe often overlooked. Strength was not always physical, and courage was not always loud. It could be quiet, clever, and adaptable, and it could earn the respect of even the most formidable beings. As night fell over Xyler 7, with stars glimmering above and the twin moons casting silver light across the hub, Jace felt ready. He had faced the first trials, survived, and earned recognition. The story was far from over. The universe was waiting, and he intended to make humans impossible to ignore. The morning sun rose slowly over Xyler 7, spilling golden light across the busy trading hub. Jace Wren walked through the streets with a sense of purpose. Yesterday's trials had been intense, testing his courage, intelligence, and patience. But today felt different. The air was tense, filled with whispers and speculation. Something was about to happen, though no one yet knew exactly what. Kayla, the Beastwoman, followed silently beside him. Her presence was as commanding as ever, and the crowd instinctively gave them space. Jace had come to rely on her presence as both a challenge and a reassurance. The respect she had shown him during the trials had not been given lightly, and he knew that today her approval would be crucial. As they approached the center of the hub, a crowd had gathered near Velker's stall. Traders, humans, and aliens alike murmured anxiously. In the middle of the crowd stood a group of rival traders, an organized faction notorious for sabotage and manipulation. They had attempted to ruin deals, steal goods, and undermine honest traders. Today it seemed they had chosen a human to challenge. Jace took a deep breath. He knew he could not rely on brute force. Humans were clever, adaptable, and resourceful, but he had to use those traits wisely. Kayla's eyes narrowed as she studied the rival faction. Her stance was alert, ready to act, but she allowed Jace the first move. The leader of the faction stepped forward, a tall alien with smooth, violet skin and 4 flexible arms. "So, the human thinks he can handle business in this hub," the leader said, voice dripping with condescension. "Let's see if he survives our little challenge." Jace met the gaze calmly. "I don't survive by chance," he said evenly. "I survive by thinking, adapting, and acting when it matters. If you want to test me, go ahead." The rival leader smirked and signaled his team. Immediately, crates of volatile goods were tipped over, threatening to spill and ruin valuable cargo in the hub. Panic spread through the crowd. Humans and aliens alike stepped back, unsure how to respond. Jace acted quickly. Using a combination of balance, quick thinking, and coordination, he guided the crowd away from danger. He secured the crates and stabilized the situation, preventing a disaster. Kayla's amber eyes gleamed in approval. She recognized that humans often thought in ways others did not expect, finding solutions where others relied on raw strength or fear. The rival faction was not finished. They had planned to manipulate the hub's automated security drones, reprogramming them to block traders and cause chaos. As the drones buzzed menacingly above the crowd, Jace assessed the situation. He noticed patterns in their movements, subtle delays that gave him an opportunity. Using a combination of quick gestures and improvised signals, he redirected the drones safely, allowing the traders and customers to move freely again. Kayla remained close, moving with silent precision, ready to intervene if needed. She seemed almost proud, recognizing Jace's ability to remain calm under pressure and think creatively. His human traits, adaptability, intelligence, and courage, shone brighter than any physical strength. But the final challenge was still ahead. The rival faction had a hidden plan. They had placed a stolen container of energy crystals on the edge of the hub's elevated platform. If it fell, it would destroy the crystals, damage the platform, and disrupt the hub's trade for weeks. Only one person could retrieve it safely. Jace stepped forward. His mind raced. There was no time for hesitation. He analyzed the platform, the container, and the support beams. Using ropes, hooks, and his knowledge of balance and leverage, he devised a plan. Kayla watched intently, ready to assist if anything went wrong. Step by step, Jace climbed the edge of the platform, carefully avoiding unstable beams and calculating the weight of the container. The crowd below held its breath. The rival faction tried to distract him, shouting insults and trying to sabotage his movements, but Jace focused. Every movement was deliberate, precise, and calculated. When he reached the container, he realized it was heavier than expected. A single mistake could send it plummeting. He took a deep breath, adjusted his grip, and slowly lifted it. Kayla's muscles tensed beside him, ready to spring into action, but Jace did not need her intervention. Using careful leverage and steady hands, he guided the container safely back onto the platform. The crowd erupted in cheers. Humans and aliens alike applauded his courage and skill. The rival faction's leader stepped back, stunned. They had underestimated him, and the lesson was clear. Humans were not weak or helpless. Their intelligence, adaptability, and courage could turn the tide in situations where others relied solely on force. Kayla approached Jace, her eyes gleaming with respect. She nudged him gently with her shoulder, a silent gesture of approval. Jace smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment and recognition that he had rarely experienced. The bond between them, forged through trials and mutual understanding, had strengthened. Velker appeared, his multiple arms gesturing broadly. "You have done more than survive, human," he said. "You have proven that humans are not just clever, they are formidable, resourceful, and worthy of respect. Kayla's choice to watch and test you was no accident." Jace looked around at the bustling hub. Traders were busy again, the crisis averted, and the rival faction had retreated, humiliated but unharmed. The energy crystals were safe, the market restored, and the reputation of humans in the hub had grown. Kayla remained at his side. Though she did not speak, her gaze conveyed something powerful: trust, respect, and the recognition of potential. Jace realized that humans had a unique strength, one that went beyond physical power. They could inspire respect, navigate challenges with intelligence and courage, and form alliances that others could not imagine. As the twin suns dipped toward the horizon, casting long, warm shadows across the hub, Jace felt a profound sense of achievement. The trials had been dangerous, yes, but they had also revealed something essential about humanity. Humans were underestimated, often overlooked, but their resilience, creativity, and bravery made them a force to be reckoned with. Kayla's presence was a reminder that the universe was full of beings who could test and challenge him, but also recognize his worth. She had seen his courage, his intelligence, and his ability to act under pressure. And in doing so, she had not just tested him, she had acknowledged him. Jace knew that this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, full of challenges and opportunities, and humans had a role to play in shaping it. He had faced tests, survived, and earned respect in a world that had once underestimated him. That was a victory greater than any crystal, greater than any deal, and more lasting than any fleeting triumph. Walking back through the hub, Jace felt the eyes of the crowd on him, not with fear but with admiration. Humans were rare, but they were remarkable. His actions had proven that. And Kayla, silent but ever watchful, remained a symbol of the bond between strength and understanding, a reminder that courage and intelligence could earn recognition even in a universe of overwhelming diversity. As night fell, the stars began to shimmer above Xyler 7. The twin moons reflected off the metallic surfaces of the hub, casting silver light across the bustling streets. Traders packed up their stalls, preparing for the next day, but Jace knew he would never forget this day. The day humans had proven their worth, the day he had earned the respect of a being far stronger and more instinctive than himself, and the day he realized that true strength was measured not just in muscle or firepower, but in courage, intelligence, and heart. Kayla pressed her hand lightly to his shoulder once more, a silent gesture that conveyed more than words ever could. Jace nodded, understanding perfectly. Humans had a place in this universe, and it was a place of honor, respect, and capability. And with that, he knew he was ready for whatever came next.